Hi guys, this is Georgia from Fiesta. Today this is year 2 and we're going to be doing a tennis festival. Let's get warm. For the warm-up, we're going to be playing a game called Human Bop It. For this game you need to follow along to the actions that are called out. So the first action is dab it, clap it, jump it and spin it. Let's see if you can follow along with me before we do it along to the music. With the music it will get quicker, so just try and keep up. So, ready? Clap it, jump it, dab it, clap it, spin it, clap it, dab it. Shall we get started with the music now? Are you ready?
Jump it, dab it, clap it, spin it.
So today we're going to be focusing on our ball handling skills. So we're going to be having our tennis racket. With the tennis racket, you will need to think about how you're holding it correctly. So I'm going to come a little bit closer. So you wrap your fingers, so here's the handle of my racket. I wrap my fingers around because I've put my palm, as you can see, to the racket. My fingers go round and then my thumb goes along the handle to try and create that firm grip when I'm holding the racket. So I'll hold it this way as well. So racket, my palm to it, my fingers wrapped around and my thumb along it to hold and try and keep a firm grip with your wrist when it comes to using a racket. So the first one that we're going to be focusing on today is the forehand hitting the racket, hitting a ball against the racket. So I've got my nice grip. With the forehand hit, the racket needs to be pointing to the sky and we're going to be bouncing the ball and it's going to be bouncing up in the air. So my palm here should now be facing upwards, not the other way around. So palm of your hand, that's that bit. I'll come closer against it. So now we've focused on getting the grip of our hand right on the tennis racket. Now we're going to focus on the forehand hit. So this means our palm of our hand now, just pull my jumper as you can see more, is going to be facing the sky or the ceiling or wherever you are standing, not the other way around. If it's facing the floor, it's the wrong way. So we need to have it facing, so our thumb facing upwards as well. The tennis racket needs to be nice and flat, as you can see, because I'm going to be balancing the ball on the racket now, and we're going to see how long we can do it. We're going to see if we can do it for 30 seconds together, so you're going to join in with me. When we're doing this, you need to make sure you try and keep that ball right in the middle of the racket, because if it starts wobbling to the edge, it might fall off. And if it does fall off, that is okay. You pick it up and you try again, because that's what we like to do. So are you ready? 30 seconds on the clock. Ready? So I've got my legs a little bit far apart, likewise about my shoulder width apart, so I can hold my balance nicely and I'm keeping my back straight. Because if I bend over too much, I'll show you this way, I lose where my ball is going, I lose control a little bit. So if you keep your back nice and straight, see my ball's wobbling all over the place, I'm going to put it back in the centre, I can then control where the ball is going because I've got my standing position correct as well. I've got my eye on the ball, but I do keep looking around as well, just to know my surroundings. never know. And you might be in a really small area that you might need to keep an eye on that. So, 10 more seconds. Hands wobbling a little bit. Palm still facing, my thumb still facing the sky or the ceiling. Good, and stop there, take it off for a second. Good. Now, we're going to try with the other hand as well. You might as well. I think you'll be able to do this definitely. So wrap your hand around again, the handle correctly. So my palm goes to the back handle, my fingers wrap around, and then my thumb goes along the handle as well to try and keep it stable and holding on to it nice and tight, because then when it comes to us balancing again, we've got control of the racket. We can keep it nice and flat to balance the ball. So this is my weaker hand as well. We're going to have a go at it. Ready? For 30 seconds. Ball in the middle of the racket again. Legs a little bit apart. My back's nice and straight. Because if we go too much, we lose control. So, 30 seconds. Go. So you see, if I wobble mine a little bit that way, it goes to the side, and then I might have to start moving. You can move if you need to try and hold it in the middle. So if it does go a little bit, move with the ball to try and gain control of it. But sometimes you might. I know I'm standing still, but I've had a lot of practice. But if you need to, do move with the ball to try and keep it in control. Don't feel like you have to stay in one spot, but try your best, because the more you hold your balance and in control, we can hold it there in the middle as well. Just start rolling too much, it makes it more challenging. So I'll get it back into the middle. 10 more seconds. You can do this. Keep doing it. And good. Well done. Just remember, if you haven't got a racket at home, you can still join in with this. However, you would just be using your hands. So we would use the palm of our hand, the middle of our hand, to hold the ball to when we're balancing. So as you can see, it's right in the middle there, and you would do the same thing. You try and keep your arm as straight as you can to hold the ball into position. My palm, my hand is facing upwards, so we've still got that forehand. I'm holding the ball for as long as we can. So have a go at that if you need to. Moving on. Now we're going to try and balance the ball on our racket whilst moving. So it's the same things we need to remember. You've got a racket, you know the hand grip now correctly. If you haven't, just use your palm of your hand. So we're still doing the forehand. So I've got my back racket nice and flat, ready for me to try and balance the ball on the racket. Do you remember where we need to try and balance the ball on the racket? Whereabouts on the racket? Right in the middle. Good. So this time we're going to try and do that, but we're going to walk from one end to another. So point A to point B. If you do drop this, do not worry, just pick it up and carry on. And we're going to try and see how many times we can do it in 30 seconds, going there and back. So it'll be 1, 2, 3. Ready? We'll do it together. So off we go. Trying to balance it on the racket. You'll see now, if I go a little bit too quick, it'll be harder to try and keep control of the ball. So you want to take your time. It's not always about speed. You want to try and keep control of the ball as much as possible, making sure it stays in the middle and making sure we still have that correct grip when we're doing it. Because as you can see, mine's rolling all over the place at the minute, so I'm trying to talk and do it at the same time. But we're doing really well to try and keep that control. As you can see, my back is nice and straight as well. Because look, I'm going to show you what happens if it's not. If I start leaning over, I can drop the ball because I've not got the correct technique for when I'm moving. So I need to make sure my back is straight. Then I can keep control here. So I've just picked it up so I can carry on. That is completely fine. I'm going to do a few more. I'm also going to look at my surroundings as I'm doing this as well. You never know where you might be doing it. There might be objects in the way. We need to make sure that we're doing this safely. Good, stop there. Don't forget you can pause the screen or rewind to go over the techniques. And if you want to do it for longer and practicing, I would recommend that, then please do. Because remember, we've got to keep trying again to lock down those skills. So well done for that. So now we're going to look at doing some tap-ups with the tennis racket and the ball. So we've still got the same hand technique of holding the racket, and we're still focusing on the forehand, so it still needs the racket pointing to the sky with the thumb to the sky as well, not to the ground. So to start off with, we're going to allow one bounce before we try and keep it up. So we will be able to eventually do this after a little bit of practice, just to show you. And look, as you can see, still keeping that ball in the centre of my racket to keep control. But we need to get to that step. So to do that, we're going to start off, we're going to allow the ball to bounce off the floor first, and then I'm going to get my racket there just in time to then bounce the ball up. If you need to bounce it, hit it, and catch it first, that can be fine. But I want you as much as possible to just try and have one bounce, hit the racket, one bounce, then bounce off the racket. And as you can see, I am having to move a little bit, because if we stand too rigid, then we're not going to be able to meet the ball. And as you can see, as much as you can, I'm trying to hit it so you can see, the ball is still hitting the middle of the racket, because I'm remembering to keep the control. I'm looking where the ball is and where I'm going. I've got my knees bent a little bit because I want to be able to move, because if I stand like this, it's going to be too tricky. So shall we do that together? We're going to have about 30 seconds trying to do it. So do it along with me, ready? If you've not got a racket at hand, you can just do the same thing with the hands, using the palm of the hand, allowing the bounce, and just getting your hand there to meet the ball. 3, 2, 1, go. Remember to try and keep a steady hand on the racket, so if your wrist comes too floppy, you won't be able to keep the racket strong to meet the ball, to bounce it back up again. So still hitting the centre. Remember, if it hits the edges, we're going to lose control a little bit and it'll go all over. A few more. Remember, if you need to hit it a little bit higher, just to allow your racket to get there, then that's okay. But you don't want to be hitting it too high, so we want to keep nice control. 10 more seconds. And stop. Good. So, we've done it with one hand now. I want you afterwards to try and have a go with the other hand as well. So you remember in your grip around, and you still with the bounce, and try and hit the racket in the centre. I mean the ball in the centre, sorry. So now we're going to have a go at trying to bounce the ball off the racket with no bounce on the floor. But if you do need to have a bounce on the floor, then that's completely fine, you just carry on. So, without it, so I'm standing, making sure I'm in the correct position. Remember, we can move, so have your knees bent a little bit ready too. My back straight, my hands, holding the racket correctly. And remember not to be too floppy. As soon as you start getting too floppy with the hands, you're going to lose control a little bit. So keep it nice and steady. So, thumb to the sky, the forehand, ball is going to go onto the racket, and as you can see, it's just hitting the middle. Am I hitting the ball really high? No. Because if I start doing that, I'm going to lose control a little bit, and that's not the point of the game. We need to keep control and see how many times we can hit the ball off the racket. So I'm only going a little bit high. So I would say no higher than your head. And as you can see, I am having to move a little bit to where the ball is going to try and keep it in the centre. So we're going to try and do that together. So are you ready to join in with me? And remember, if it hits the floor, I can just carry on. Because we can just do what we've just done in our last skill, the bounce on the floor. But we want to try as much as we can to limit that and just keep it on the racket. Ready? We're going to do it for 30 seconds together. Let's go. Remember, if you've not got the racket, it's the same thing with our hands, just in the palm of our hand, hitting it. Let's see how many you can do. Don't forget to look at your surroundings when you're doing this, because it is hard to try and keep control of the ball and the racket, and you will find yourself moving a little bit. Remember, if it drops on the floor, we'll just carry on. Woo! It's getting away from me there. 10 more seconds. How many times have you managed to keep up a rhythm? Hands nice and steady. So you go to flop. Whoa! It's going to go out the camera. Well done. So, extra challenge. If you wanted to try and do that with your weaker hands as well, then do give it a shot. It is the same thing. Will be harder, a lot harder, but have a go in your own time. And remember, if you need to, pause the screen, rewind, and try and knock down that skill. We're going to move on now to a fun game to finish off. For this, you will need a family member. So I'm just going to put my mask on, because I'm going to need my family member to join me. Make sure I put the mask on the right way round. So my mask is on now. JJ, would you like to join me? So JJ is my family member today. Say hi, JJ.
Hello.
So for this, you still need a racket, you still need a ball, and your family member. If you do not have a family member at home though, you can use it against the wall. So do not worry, you do not have to go over and find someone if you cannot. So you can still join in with the game. So I've got my racket and I've got my ball. This time, you still need to focus with your grip around the racket handle, but this time we're not going to be doing our forehand pointing to the sky. We need to turn it to its side a little bit, so do it with me. So the reason that we're now using it, turning our racket to the side, is because we're going to be trying to hit the ball towards something. So I'm going to be hitting it towards my family member JJ. So this time you need to make sure, I'm going to start off to explain as well. I'm facing JJ, and then I'm going to turn my body to the side a little bit now so I'm not facing JJ. My shoulder, so this way will be facing JJ. I have to look at him sideways. Because I now need to make sure I have enough room to have a swing to hit the ball towards him. But the first thing that we need to focus on is we are going to be dropping the ball so it bounces once. So it just hits the floor and then comes back up. So as soon as it's done that, you're going to use your racket and try and hit the ball against the middle of the racket towards the way that you're hitting. So it bounces and then it hits towards JJ. Did I have a massive swing behind it when I hit the ball? No. Because if I did that, it's going to go flying past JJ and he's not going to be able to catch it. We want him to be able to catch it or the ball to go towards him so he can collect it. So, I'll drop it again. Remember, I'm only going to open my arm up just a little bit for a swing. So, if you want to practice that first, you've got your ball in one place, and we're just going to have a swing. We're just getting it to think of where the ball is. Good. Let's have a bounce again. And I'm just hitting it towards JJ. And then JJ can just throw it back or roll it back to me. And now 2 more goes, and then we're going to swap over. I'm watching the ball when I do my swing through to see where I need to meet the racket against the ball. So I'm ready, in my ready position. Ball goes straight to JJ. Nice, I'm not hitting it too hard and I'm not hitting it too soft, because if I hit it too soft, it's not going to make it as well. So 1 more go. And then this one. Just hitting it towards him again. Nice. So me and JJ are going to swap over now. Yeah, you need it. So I'm the new parent, the family member, so I'm now ready to receive the ball from JJ. So he's standing side on, he's holding the racket correctly, he's going to make sure he has 1 bounce and then he hits the ball with the racket and he's aiming for the centre of the racket. Good, nice. Good. JJ's bending his knees a little bit as well to make sure that he can move a little bit and has not too rigid. Ready? Eyes back to the His back straight, his eyes are looking at the ball. He also knows where I am because he's looked to see where I am. So he can hit the ball from towards me. 1 more. Good. So, this time, we're going to change it a little bit. This time we're not going to have a bounce. This time we're going to try and do it without. So now we're going to do it without a bounce. So this time we're going to be focusing on serving the ball to JJ, but it's now known as a we're going to not meet the ball. So just a little bit. So you ready? Because we need to allow time for the swing through to hit the ball towards JJ. Remember, the swing does not need to be ridiculously big. It just needs to be a little swing because the aim is to get it to JJ. Ready? So it's up a little bit, then swing it to my back to reach the ball to then go to JJ. So ready again? Do it along with me if you can. Remember, if you need to pause the screen, you can. So it's up a little bit, then hit the ball towards JJ. So can you remember where we need to be hitting the ball off our racket? Good. The centre. One more. Oh, is it not? You didn't want to give me one more go? So now JJ's going to have a go as well. He's got the correct technique, holding the racket. He's standing side on. And then I'm ready to catch the ball. So he's still hitting the centre of the racket. He's only throwing it up a little bit. So he can meet the ball with the racket close follow through. I had to joke around a little bit. And the ball's not coming to me too hard. Because you don't think the point isn't to try and catch me out. We're working together. Good. His back's nice and straight. He's looking where he's going to be hitting the ball towards. Goes up a little bit. Dropped it. One more, JJ. Up a little, throw the ball in the air a bit. Good. And he's used the centre of the racket. To hit the ball when he's following the. Good. Thank you for that, JJ.
No worries.
So today we're focused on our tennis skills, and we've used a range of different trying to balance the ball, volley the ball to a partner, and bouncing it off our racket as well. So you've done really well, but don't forget, if you needed more practice, you can pause the screen, you can rewind, watch the whole video again, and keep practicing them skills to lock them down. This is Georgia from Fiesta. See you next time.